Hey everyone, Steve here from PC Budget Solutions. Yes, still the name, haven't come up with a new one yet, stay tuned. But if you've been doing this as long as I have, which honestly has been a little bit more than a half a decade to be brutally honest, you've probably had somebody come up to you and say, hey, I have this old computer from 2000 and it's a computer from 2010 and I just had a computer built a couple years ago. Can I just combine them all and make a supercomputer? No. You really can't. Incompatible parts, Intel phased out processors every 2 platforms, but it's not to say that's an unreasonable request. So that's kind of what I have here today. I have 4 computers, of which 3 are actually from the same series. They all use the same memory. One of them is dead, at least the motherboard is dead. Yeah, he kind of spilled pop on it. Twice. Yeah, didn't kill it the first time, but the second time it did. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look to see what we have and see what we can do with taking basically components from 3 working computers, 1 not so working computer, and come up with the best outcome. So here we got the first one. This is my friend's brother's computer, which he doesn't really use anymore. It's a pretty solid gaming laptop. This had a Core i3 in it. Not sure if video card was in. I want to say it was HD 7870 or something like that. 500 gig hard drive, 8 gigs. It was pretty good. We try to stay on a pretty low budget to kind of give them some decent game performance. Right now, it has a 1050 Ti because remember I mentioned my buddy spilled pop on it twice? Well, the first time nixed the graphics card, so we replaced that with a 1050 Ti. So not as powerful as his. So his, I'm gonna move the camera over here so I can show you, is actually down here. And he already moved over a fair bit. This is also 3rd gen, but it's a 3rd gen i5. Okay, so we definitely want to move the CPU over if possible. The problem is this has 4 RAM slots, that only is 2. So right now we only have 1 8 gig stick and a bunch of 4 gig sticks. So I'm not exactly sure what we want to do. But what we have over here though, and I'm going to take myself out of the frame, is a Dell Optiplex 790. And then I believe it has a 2nd or 3rd gen i5 from when I looked it up. And it has 8 gigs of RAM, DDR3. Now here is where it gets a little bit interesting. And this is a Dell Optiplex 9020. Now this one differs a little bit because it has a 4th gen i7. Now there's a couple problems with it though, but we're gonna go over that in a little bit. But that is the most powerful system we have. So let's take a look to see if we can move some things around and come up with a really powerful computer for gaming and then 2 other computers just for, everyday working pretty much. So I'm not gonna be able to show you guys real close, but when you look at things like the power connector, which is kind of like the 24 pin, it's like a weird 8 pin. And then the front panel connectors over here, they're proprietary. Even the CPU power, which is over in here, is also proprietary. So that definitely leads it to a little bit of a problem. Let's see what we can do about it though. So we do need to go over why it's not a slam dunk to use this computer necessarily. First things first, this is the 24 pin power connector. That's not 24 pin. Sure, use the standard 8 pin. But that is for the fan. That's not a standard 4 pin. Down here, that's not a standard, I'm not sure if you can really see it, but just trust me on it. That's not a standard front header. So we definitely have our work cut out for us. Now, not all is lost. There's some things we have to do logistically. So the 1050 or the 1050 Ti should fit. It should come out to probably about here. It is a 2 slotter, but I can move these if need be, not a real big deal breaker. The power supply is, and it's unfortunately not in the frame that well, but it is a Dell. It's 290 watts. So just to give you an idea, the card can only pull 75, the CPU pulls 65. So that's 140. We have 2 12-volt rails at 16 amps and 12 and 14 amps respectively. That actually adds up, I think, to either 290 or slightly above. So honestly, not really worried about that. One area I am slightly worried about is where to put the SSD. Now we're going to clean this case, so ignore the dust. But I'm not sure if I have a caddy. If I do, it'll be fine. If not, I need to find some sort of extension cable, and I'm going to use double-sided tape. It's an SSD, not really a big deal. Now, the question is what do we do with everything else? Well, let's actually examine a little bit closer what we have. Now, this is the Dell Optiplex 790. And what's interesting about it is, let me look at the total output here. We got two 9-volt or 12-volt rails at 17 amps and 9 amps. This is only 265 watts. It's a little bit lower. But this is only, I believe, a 2nd or 3rd gen i5. It has 8 gigs of RAM. It has, I think, a 500 gig hard drive. Honestly, this one's fine. This is going to be an everyday system. I don't have a spare SSD for this, unfortunately. But if we reload Windows, put 10 on it, clean it up, replace the thermal paste, it's actually going to do quite a bit better. So this one should be pretty easy. Not really much to do on this one. But we have 2 more, one working and one not, because we need a second system for everyday computing. So here's a system that isn't working. Now, I really don't know what's salvageable, and to be safe, I'm going to gut it. Now, the reason why I'm not just going to put everything in that system over there is because this is going to be an everyday computer. And this is an NZXT Source 210, very businessy. That has a couple LED fans, has a windowed side panel. I mean, it's cool, but for the people that are going to be using it, they don't need all that. So we're actually going to swap the power supply for the working one, swap the board. I'll even swap the DVD drive. I don't even have a demand for those, but I'm going to keep this same processor in it. This is an i5. So basically what's be left over is this case, this power supply, this DVD drive, this board, and then most likely is dead, and then the i3. So that's what's left over, and I'll do some testing on it later. But let's start getting everything shuffled around. So this is where that's going. So here's the problem. So let's go ahead and so we need something to hold this up. That's kind of the issue right now. It won't quite fit under it. Thought about that. There's just, I can't think of any way to get this to work the way I want it. Because I could probably do this. And then there's like a screw hole right here. But no, see, that's too far back. So what we're gonna have to do is we're probably gonna have to tape this on here. I really don't want to because it's gonna have to like sit like this for it to fit right, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty much gonna be our only option. So you want to talk about being resourceful. Let me show you what I did here. Back behind here, I have a thumb screw. Okay. It's holding the front of this SSD up. That's kind of what you gotta do. Now that I got that working, the rest of this should be cake. Now I eyed this up, but I didn't actually try, but a 1050 Ti is gonna fit. That's pretty much, I don't want to say guaranteed, but that was pretty obvious for me. It wasn't gonna have any problems. So the good news is we can go ahead and finish wiring this up, add some memory to it, fire up, it should work, and then we'll take it from there and do the other ones. You know, I've been doing this for a while, and I still make a lot of simple mistakes. Now, luckily, I figured out the problem, but when I booted this up with switching, adding more memory to it, it kept power cycling and did not like these 2 memory sticks. Now, it turns out I already had 16 gigs of RAM, so it actually made 24. It could be a plethora of things, but you really should try the hardware first before you start making any changes, because I didn't actually know if these were working systems. They assumed they were, but definitely could have not been the case. But as you see, we're loading Windows. I'm gonna clear both drives and start going from there. So that's pretty much it. We'll wrap it up, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna be a long video. You guys don't need to see other parts, just transplanting computer. So the question always is, can I take one computer or actually multiple computers and make one supercomputer? No. This computer is a fair bit more powerful than the previous one. We're going from essentially 2 cores, 4 threads to 4 cores, 8 threads, faster speed, double the RAM, and a bigger SSD. Part of that has to do with the fact that he's buying the 2 4 gig SSD, obviously. And part of it has to do with the fact we got lucky that it's this very similar platform. We were able to get things to fit into an otherwise proprietary Dell case. So generally speaking, no, it worked out this time. You know, if you have a bunch of computers from the same era, maybe if they're all Intel, most likely, if they're all AMD, probably wouldn't be worth it. The FX platform is pretty crappy. So that's kind of my take on it. Let me know what you guys think. Have anybody walk up to you and say, or a friend or family say, hey, I want you to put all these computers together and make a really awesome computer out of it? Has that ever happened? Comment in the section below. Otherwise, like it if you liked it. If you didn't like it, it's a one-off video. So be it. I won't do another one like this one particularly. Stay tuned. Got some things in the pipeline. Nothing's like tomorrow, but hopefully soon. If you can get people to buy some of these computers and recoup some money, maybe a little quicker. But as always, this is Steve from PC Budget Solutions, and I'll see you later on down the road.